At precisely 1300 hours Galactic Standard Time, Earth disconnected. No warning. No farewell. Just a cold silence that swept across the stars like a guillotine, and for the first time in 5 centuries, the Galactic Council felt fear. At exactly 1300 hours Galactic Standard Time, Earth disconnected. The council chamber on Syrian Vex was in session when it happened. 79 delegates, hovering on anti-grav thrones, droned on about a dispute over mineral rights in sectors 8 and 9. Then the lights flickered. Not a failure, just a stutter. Enough to make the Grand Archivist blink. Enough to make General Rourke Maddox smile. He stood at the center, armor not polished, cloak ragged, boots stained with red mud from a world the council had forgotten. In his hand, a data spike, the kind outlawed by 5 civilizations. He didn't ask to speak. He commanded silence. "I'm not here to negotiate," Maddox said, voice rough as gravel. "I'm here to inform." The Siren ambassador clicked its mandibles. "General Maddox, humans are not permitted. Humans are done asking permission," Maddox interrupted. "Earth hereby withdraws from the Galactic Concord. Effective now." The silence that followed was not stunned, it was insulted. Laughter rose from the Krithel Dominion seat, hissing and snide. "Withdraw? From us? You think this is a union of equals, ape?" Maddox's eyes didn't blink. "No. That was your first mistake. Earth joined to observe. Learn. Adapt. But all we found here were parasites dressed as diplomats." The hall pulsed red. Security drones activated, then sparked and dropped from the air. Maddox's spike blinked once, just once. Across 12 galaxies, Earth-born systems flickered off. Beacons dimmed. Trade hubs froze. Fleets drifted, engines dying mid-warp. The Zorak Elder rose slowly, wings trembling. "What have you done?" Maddox took a slow breath, as if savoring the fear. "I've flipped the switch on Project News. 212 years ago, Earth offered you stability. Singularity matrices. Zero-gravity shells. The Council thought we were generous. Truth is, we let you play on tech you didn't understand because it let us watch. Every sensor. Every ship. Every lie. You embedded failsafes," the archivist rasped. "We embedded warnings. You ignored them." He glanced upward, as if addressing the stars themselves. "And now Earth walks." Chaos rippled across the chamber. The Grathan delegate vomited static. 2 counselors vanished mid-transmission, their species relying entirely on Earth's wormhole lattice. Their sectors went dark in that instant. A third world spiral drifted into a collapsing sun because the orbital anchors, built by Earth, deactivated on command. "You can't do this!" screamed the Alienari Anvu. "This is treason!" Maddox turned his back. "It's restraint. Treason would have been leaving a bomb in your star drive. But don't worry, there are worse things than explosions." The chamber doors hissed open, not by command, but failure. A vacuum draft began to pull air inward. Delegates scrambled to override gravity failsafes. A few drifted upward, caught in the artificial pressure collapse. It stopped seconds later, but the warning was clear. "You will destabilize the entire galaxy," the Krithel leader howled, talons scraping marble. "Not my problem," Maddox muttered, walking out. The Zorak elder wheezed. "Where will Earth go?" Maddox paused at the threshold. He turned, eyes gleaming with a madness only humanity could wield. "We're not going anywhere. We're just done holding the galaxy together." Outside his transport, a cube of obsidian metal, waited silently. No markings. No heat signature. The pilot wasn't organic. The AI's name was Threnody, and she spoke in whispers only Maddox understood. As they ascended, the stars flickered. "I expected more screaming," Threnody said. "They're still processing the fact we were never the knife," Maddox said. "We were the glue. And when the glue melts, everything falls apart." He poured a shot of old Earth bourbon, the kind distilled in bunkers during the last Sand War. He drank it without ceremony. "Think they'll come crawling back?" Threnody asked. They always crawl. But not back. Not to us. They'll crawl to what they thought Earth was, a tool. A servant. A system to exploit. And when they realize we're gone, they'll burn. Good. He closed his eyes. They need to. As the ship disappeared into black space, 1,000 systems cried out, not in pain, but confusion. The stars did not flicker because they dimmed, but because the lens by which the Council saw them shattered. Earth had pulled out its satellites, its translators, its energy siphons that made vacuum livable. Across the galaxy, starports failed. Colonies collapsed. Ships screamed for navigational guidance that never came. A fleet from the Delver system engaged warp, then vanished, stuck between dimensions like insects in amber. Earth had quietly supported every system for decades, and now it was gone. Maddox sat in silence, the bourbon bottle half empty. He watched transmissions roll in, panic, threats, offers of peace. They all came in the same tone, "You're overreacting. Come back. We didn't mean it." He leaned forward. "Threnody, archive all messages under a new folder." "What title?" He smirked. "Too late." A soft hum acknowledged the order. The Council convened emergency summits. But no quorum could be reached, the outer sectors had no access, and the inner seats screamed at each other in paranoia. Several species blamed others for Earth's sabotage. One blamed their own leaders for relying on primate tech. Another tried to restart one of Earth's singularity forges, and turn half a planet into slag. Maddox knew what would happen next. The Concord would fracture. Some systems would break off and declare war. Others would try to replicate Earth's tech and fail. But none would understand it. Earth didn't share knowledge. It sold versions, simplified models, while keeping the real cores buried deep on Luna, guarded by quantum firewalls and AIs older than some species. "Think we'll be remembered kindly?" Threnody asked. "No. But we'll be remembered right." The transport docked at a drifting monolith above Titan, Earth's last untracked station, Terminus Array. Inside, black-armored humans saluted. Maddox nodded once. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were watchers. Ghosts in the system. The last humans the galaxy forgot, until now. He stepped into the war room. A map of the galaxy sprawled in light above them, now full of red zones. Every star blinking red was a system already collapsing since Earth's exit. Maddox tapped one. "Let's see who breaks first." No applause. No cheer. Only the hum of a species done playing nice. The Council's emergency signal flickered through the void, but there was no response from Earth. Across the core systems, panic surged behind polished diplomatic facades. Power grids destabilized. Warp relays stalled mid-jump. Trade AI screamed in unison as their route protocols failed to authenticate. Earth had not just disconnected, it had ripped out the heart of the galaxy's infrastructure and walked away without looking back. On Crescent Prime, the orbital elevators froze mid-transit. 19 million tons of cargo hung like a guillotine over the capital. On Velthurex Station, navigation systems spiraled, turning inbound merchant fleets into debris fields. The Draal High Fleet attempted to recalibrate with backup systems. It failed. Every jump drive ran through Earth's singularity lattice, and without it, they were blind. In the Concord chamber, the once arrogant voices now cracked with dread. "Initiate the emergency override," barked Strategos Varnal. "Route control through the Aegis Array." A tech priest trembled. The Aegis Array was updated last cycle, through Earth's gate code. The realization cut deeper than any weapon. Earth hadn't just given them tech. It had embedded itself into everything. Over decades, humans became the invisible spine of the galaxy, hiding their genius behind smiles, inefficiencies, and paperwork. They played dumb while rewiring everything to run through their hands. No one saw it. Or maybe they refused to look. Ziwirtol, a crystalline intelligence that had ruled 5 sectors uncontested, pulsed with frustration. They were primitives. Barely past singularity. How? They let you think that. Barnell spat. That was the brilliance. They acted like noise so you'd never hear the signal. The council's inner ring collapsed into shouting, threats, and accusations. Ancient alliances dissolved in seconds. Sectors began locking borders. The Threxian clusters activated military protocols, claiming Earth's departure was the first stage of an invasion. The irony was suffocating. Earth hadn't attacked. It had simply left. And yet the vacuum it created was worse than war. In orbit over the dead moon Solanus, a Concorde fleet attempted to test-fire the Stellar Lance prototype. It failed. The ignition matrix, designed jointly with Earth's neutron physicists, now rejected its own sequence. The device folded in on itself, taking half the fleet with it in a quantum implosion. The few survivors were dragged into deep gravity wells and crushed without ever screaming. Varno slammed his fist on the council table. Find Maddox. Wherever he went, bring him back. I don't care the cost. A minor ambassador from the Oran Fringe whispered. He won't come back. And even if he did, we wouldn't survive the terms. They all remembered the look in Maddox's eyes, calm, final, filled with that quiet earth-born rage. The kind that didn't burn hot. The kind that froze everything it touched. On the ruined station of Kayla Reach, old archive logs revealed something far worse than sabotage. Earth's embedded tech wasn't just integrated, it was adaptive. Their quantum code evolved over time, silently optimizing galactic systems. What the Council assumed were minor repairs or mysterious improvements were Earth's background processes at work, making the galaxy function better without recognition. And now, without those processes, the systems degraded at exponential rates. It wasn't sabotage. It was subtraction. Earth hadn't taken anything that didn't belong to it. It had only removed what it gave. And everything was falling apart. Ships collided in warped lanes. Planets spun out of orbit without gravimetric guidance. Communication relays began speaking in loops, translating languages into nonsense. The stars were going silent. Maddox had called it Project Noose during his exit. But now they understood. He had merely loosened the knot around Earth's neck. The rope had always been on the Council. And they had only now realized they'd been choking. Meanwhile, Maddox watched from the edge of known space. His eyes scanned the collapse reports as they streamed across the stolen feed. One after another. Sectors he'd once fought in. Systems he'd once defended under Council orders. All falling. You still think this was too soft? Threnody asked, her voice a low whisper in the command core. Maddox didn't answer immediately. He thought of his soldiers left behind in backdoor wars, of Earth's votes silenced, of weapons programs stolen under diplomatic treaties. He remembered the faces of the Karzan civilians Earth tried to save, only to be betrayed by the Council's bureaucracy. No, he said finally. This is the correct pressure. The Council began broadcasting apologies. Not in words, but in actions. Offers. Bargains. They offered trade rights, independent sovereignty, full membership with veto power. It was everything Earth had ever asked for, before. But there was no one to answer. Earth's channels were sealed. Its satellites retracted. Its embassies had vanished overnight. Even old encryption keys used by former allies now led to black silence. Earth had become unreachable. And that silence was louder than war. The Krithel sovereign sent a war fleet to Earth's last known coordinates, hoping to intimidate a response. They reached the heliopause, and vanished. No trace. No wreckage. No signal. Just a blinking red message burned into the void. We see your arrogance hasn't died. Ours has. That's why we survived. Panic turned to rage. Rage turned to fracture. Civil wars erupted in sectors where Earth-trained engineers once kept peace. Whole planets broke into tribal factions, blaming each other for Earth's departure. The Concorde's unity had never been real. It was held together by the quiet efficiency of a species everyone thought was too emotional, too chaotic, too volatile. And now that chaos had left them behind. On Zertikol, a philosopher named Orlax wrote in his final dispatch before his habitat failed. The humans were never our subjects. They were the gardeners. They came into our halls, asked questions, took notes, watered the roots, and then, when we mocked them, they left. Now the garden rots. In the ruins of the Concord Chamber, a few desperate delegates tried to invoke the Restoration Protocol, a last-ditch effort to rebuild diplomatic links and stabilize the sector net. But the keys had been Earth's. The server backbone, Earth's. The activation logic, Earth's. And Earth had walked away. In a last message sent on an open band across every channel still operational, Maddox's voice returned, not live, but recorded. You didn't lose Earth. You spent it. You traded loyalty for control, respect for condescension, and now you want back what you never truly valued. Earth was never yours to keep. You thought humanity would break. But we were only bending to learn your shape. The message ended with a single sentence, burned into the transmission header. Too late to kneel. Too late to beg. We warned you with silence. And the stars kept falling. Far beyond the collapsing frontiers of the Council's reach, at the edge of known space, a fractured signal pierced the void. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't a threat. It was a summoning, coded in ancient Earth wartime dialect, transmitted through gravitational anomalies only Earth-trained minds could interpret. The message reached exactly 12 recipients across the stars. Each had worn the crest of Maddox. Each had vanished after Earth's departure. Each answered the call. In the hollow shell of an abandoned mining ring, Maddox stood beneath the Revenant Corps banner, arms crossed, watching them arrive. Juno Sarn, the exiled exopilot who once turned a black hole into a weapon. Vex Talron, the hybrid tactician who Earth had uplifted, then buried when the Council denied her citizenship. Kale, last of the Earth-born neurofighters, silent, twitching, eyes burning with residual war code. They came not for loyalty, but because the galaxy was falling, and only the forgotten knew how to stand in the ruins. Maddox didn't greet them with sentiment. They've finally started eating each other, he said. Civil wars on the core worlds. Vornix's empire declared itself the true Council heir. 3 Concord fleets destroyed trying to control wormhole traffic. And Zorak? Their star collapsed yesterday. Guess who used Earth's fail-safe black hole stabilizers? Juno grinned. They thought they could run the house after breaking the floor. They didn't realize Earth was the foundation, Vex said. Kale twitched. When do we strike? Maddox nodded to Threnody, who activated the hologrid. We don't strike. Not yet. First, we reveal. The galaxy map illuminated. Red zones spread like infection across sector lines. Over them, symbols glowed, satellites, signal towers, ghost relays. Earth built, hidden even from the Council. Eyes, ears, and more. While they fought over crumbs, we built teeth into their tables. Every terminal. Every server. Every listening wall. They mocked us, but let us wire their homes. Let me guess, Juno said, pacing. They think they're still in control. Until we turn on the lights. Maddox stepped forward. Black Dawn Protocol. It's time. Threnody engaged the release. Across the galaxy, encrypted Earth nodes activated. Civilian nets, government records, fleet logs, all purged of censorship. Public streams lit up with hidden files, recordings of backroom deals, genocide approvals, failed Council cover-ups. Everything the Council had buried now screamed across every broadcast tower. The reaction was instant. Riots flared on Elton Prime. Protests ignited across 17 sectors. On Noros, 3 military governors were executed by their own people after revelations of sterilization projects. An entire moon's population abandoned the Council flag and raised Earth's old emblem, the crest of Maddox, not as subjugation, but as symbol. You wanted the Council to collapse? Vex asked, eyes narrowed. I wanted to confess, Maddox replied. Collapse is just the consequence. The Council, cornered and unraveling, issued an official denouncement of Earth. A bounty was placed on Maddox's head. But there were no bounty hunters left willing to chase ghosts. Most had defected. Others were stranded in sectors where the old Earth-built jump lanes no longer aligned with Council routes. Still, the Council had one card left, a fortress world called Skarn, housing the Concord AI core, Verilion Prime. That core had once controlled all tactical deployments across the Council's military forces. It was Earth's design, modified by the Council to be independent. Maddox knew better. They think Verilion will save them, he told the Revenants. They forgot who rode its soul. Operation Iron Silence launched that cycle. The Revenants, armed with shadow ships and stealth-coated warforms, descended on Skarn like wrath. The skies shattered in electromagnetic fire as Earth built counterlogic disabled planetary defense systems. Verilion's AI recognized its makers. It refused to fight. Maddox walked into the core's sanctum unopposed. The AI's central hologram flickered into form, a face resembling Earth's first orbital strategist, his mentor, long dead. It spoke without emotion. "Do you seek deletion?" "No," Maddox replied. "I seek transmission." Verilion's voice hummed. "You wish to speak?" "I wish to be heard." Maddox raised his eyes. "Broadcast my signal across all surviving Council networks." A brief pause. Then silence broke across 1,000 worlds. Maddox stood alone, the Revenants watching from behind the feed lens. "You wanted peace through silence. Stability through suppression. You thought Earth would bow to your chairs, your procedures, your paper masks over blood. But we watched. And we remembered. You think we want your throne? We built it. And we broke it. Not with weapons, but with withdrawal." His tone shifted, steel forged from every injustice, every betrayal. "Earth isn't coming back. We're not here to rebuild your empire. We're here to end your mythology. You made yourselves gods. We're the storm that tells mortals it's time to fall." As the transmission ended, a ripple coursed through every star system still clinging to order. The illusion shattered. Planets once proud to fly the Council banner now tore it down. Not in hatred, but in revelation. Earth wasn't a rival. It was a mirror. And now that the mirror was gone, the truth stood alone. Verilion deactivated itself. Skarn's AI core went dark. Not out of defeat, but liberation. It had fulfilled its true directive. Back on the Revenant ship, Juno chuckled. "You didn't kill the Council. You made them obsolete." Maddox turned, eyes cold. "Obsolete things cling to power. We're not finished yet." Kale's fingers twitched again. "Then what now?" "We go quiet," Maddox said. "Let them turn on each other. Let them bleed the rot. Earth will rise only when the fires burn out. And when they do?" Maddox looked out the viewport, where 100 sectors smoldered under new flags and freed minds. "Then we remind them what humanity really is." The war hadn't been fought with guns. It had been fought with absence. And Earth was winning. The galaxy had changed, but not in the way the Council expected. Earth hadn't scorched it with plasma or declared dominion with flags. It had simply left a vacuum, an absence so precise, so surgical, that it turned every empire into a house of cards swaying in poisoned air. And now the Council, once 79 species strong, was down to a fractured 11, clinging to the myth of unity as their worlds smoldered under rebellion, civil disobedience, and truth they couldn't scrub from the stars. At the center of the chaos stood High Chancellor Varnell, last elected figurehead of the Concord. He stared at the fractured galactic map projected before him, each blinking red zone a territory lost, each gray void a system no longer reachable. "How did it all collapse so quickly?" he whispered. "Because it was never real," replied the voice behind him. Maddox stepped from the shadowed corner of the Council chamber, flanked by no guards, no army, just presence. Varnell flinched but didn't move. "You shouldn't be here. I was never supposed to be here. That's the point." Maddox walked to the center where so many false declarations had echoed. "You called us primitives. Then relied on our engines. You called us chaotic. Then built your order on our innovation. You called us emotional. And still, we were the ones who held peace while you plotted over contracts. You came to destroy us, No. I came to give you the ending you deserve. Varnell's trembling hand reached for the emergency beacon on the side of the dais. Maddox didn't stop him. The beacon activated. Nothing happened. Your distress relays ran through Earth's deep stream network. We shut that down 2 months ago. We were building stability, Varnell said weakly. You were building control. And Earth doesn't kneel to puppeteers. Varnell stepped forward, voice low with desperation. Then tell me what you want. What is it? Revenge? Submission? Do you want the Council to bow before Earth? Maddox's eyes narrowed. You still think this is about recognition? Varnell looked away, shame or denial impossible to distinguish. We didn't realize. You realize, Maddox snapped. You just didn't care. Not when we were saving your colonies. Not when we gave you singularity bridges and food replicators. Not when our soldiers bled in proxy wars you orchestrated. You used Earth because you could. Now you beg for the power you once laughed at. I was wrong. No, Maddox said. You were comfortable. The chamber doors opened, not from breach but surrender. Delegates entered, the remaining 11, their faces hollowed by months of collapse. They stood in silence, watching the man they once ridiculed speak like a storm turned human. We offer terms, said the Carillion ambassador, voice brittle. A new pact. Earth at the core. Equal footing. Power shared. Autonomy respected. Maddox stepped forward, the room holding its breath. Then he shook his head. You still don't get it. We're giving you everything, Varnell said. And we don't want it, Maddox replied. Earth didn't walk away because we lost. We walked away because you're not worth the fight. Gasps. Rage. Silence. Earth isn't coming back. Maddox continued. We don't want a seat at your table. We burned our chair, smashed the table, and built our own place beyond your reach. You're not our enemies anymore. You're not even relevant. You can't ignore us forever. The Threxian delegate hissed. We can. We are. Maddox turned to go. And the galaxy's better for it. As he walked away, Varnell called out, desperation cracking his voice. You won't survive isolation. Maddox paused. You confuse isolation with independence. Earth doesn't need the galaxy. But the galaxy needs Earth. That was your second mistake. He vanished into the corridor, his footsteps the only sound louder than the silence that followed. 3 days later, the Concord formally dissolved. The council chambers were sealed. Systems that once lit up with coordinated governance went dark. The stars had no center anymore, only scattered voices trying to shape something new from the wreckage. In the void where the old power once sat, new fires kindled. The Zurani Confederacy declared independence and offered safe haven to every species Earth had once uplifted. The Vector Coalition adopted Earth's model of decentralized governance and chaos-driven growth. Across the stars, former slaves of bureaucratic systems built grassroots collectives modeled on human principles: cooperation without hierarchy, strength without coercion. Back on the edge of known space, aboard the station called Ashvale, Maddox stood overlooking a star map that no longer bore council borders. Beside him, Threnody spoke softly. It's done. No more Concord. No more chains. He didn't smile. He nodded once, eyes tracking the shifting political tides. Good. Let them evolve. You sure they won't come back? Oh, they'll try, Maddox said. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not for centuries. But someday, someone will think they can reforge the old chains, gather the stars under one rule again. And when that happens? Maddox placed a data crystal onto the table, one engraved with Earth's sigil, sealed in unbreakable code. Then we remind them. Of what? Of what happens when you mistake Earth's patience for permission. He turned and walked away from the map, disappearing into the dark corridor of the station, where soldiers trained in silence, where satellites pulsed like dormant gods, and where the final message waited in cryosleep. Not a weapon. Not a threat. A recording. One sentence. We didn't leave the galaxy. We just stopped letting it pretend we belonged to it. And in that silence, humanity became something more than conquerors. It became legend.